This is a very big and scary thing that's going to have a lot of impact for the future of the entertainment industry. At least it's not Paramount. I'll give it that. At least it's not Paramount. So that ages really well, huh? So this video is going to be a little bit different than kind of my usual like fanfare. I don't really have a script. I'm not really going to edit this a ton. I'm not going to do crazy like B-roll and clips and fancy effects and stuff like that. I kind of just want to sit down and talk about this for a bit. So for those who don't know, a couple days ago, as of recording this, it was announced probably is not the right word, but whatever, that Paramount was going to be buying Warner Brothers Discovery. This comes after December when we all thought Netflix was going to be buying them. And normally I wouldn't make a video on just this. This feels like kind of a little bit reactionary, but I was going to have a thing about DCU Batman coming out today, and I like worked my ass off to get it out today, and I kind of looked at the state of the discourse and I looked at how people were feeling. I was like, maybe not the best time to post that. So that will come out soon. That will still be coming out for reasons I'll get to later in the video. For now, I just kind of want to sit down and talk about this. I'm by no means like an expert. I'm not a business guy. I don't really give a shit about business stuff. That's never been a thing that I've cared about. I care more about art and the people that make the art, but I do think this has pretty big ramifications for the film industry and media and art as a whole and stuff like that, the world as a whole, that I do kind of want to talk about at least like a little bit. But before we get started, this was supposed to go on that Batman video before things got all flipped around. This video is brought to you by Clover. Clover is a financial app that gives you access to your money without the interest or hidden fees or stress that you find with a payday loan app. With Clover, you can advance up to $400 before payday with no credit checks or late fees or interest. It's perfect for when something unexpected comes up and you just need a little bit of breathing room till your next paycheck. There are a lot of surprise expenses in life, which is added on top of, you know, living expenses, things like a flat tire or a vet bill or something that you can't really prepare for. And that's the kind of thing that Clover's good for. Those random $200 or $300 things that seem to just come out of nowhere. It's kind of like a safety net or like a backup for that sort of thing. And it gives peace of mind. There isn't a monthly subscription or a membership fee just to access this. You can get your money in a few days for free or pay an instant transfer fee to get it right away. And that is how Clover makes their money. They're not like a mobster that's going to come back 3 years down the line or anything like that. It's more so just like a little something to help when times suddenly get tough. And honestly, it's the reason I'm comfortable doing this sponsor, because they're so transparent about how they make that money. You obviously still have to be capable of paying that money back, you know, please be responsible with your finances, but times are tough right now, and in this economy, I think that this could be really helpful. Click the link in the description down below to sign up and access up to $400 with no credit check or late fees with Clover. And thanks to Clover for sponsoring this video. All right, now back to the dystopian hellscape that we live in. So back in December, it was announced that Netflix was going to be buying Warner Brothers Discovery, and this was after a really big, long bidding war between Netflix and Paramount. And Universal was involved too, but they dropped out pretty early. Warner Brothers decided that the Netflix deal was a better value compared to the Paramount deal. And since then, for the past few months, Paramount has been kind of like a needy little ex, if that they tried filing like a hostile takeover, and they've been like constantly like trying to get other government regulations to say that this Netflix deal is bad and stuff like that. From December till now, I was kind of just like, this is crazy, because, you know, they prefer the Netflix deal, so that's the one, right? And I kind of was like, cool, it's not Paramount. At least it's not Paramount. We got Netflix. We got to deal with Netflix. We'll deal with that when we get there. But now it's Paramount, because apparently a couple days ago, Warner Brothers decided that actually now Paramount's deal is a better deal than Netflix's deal. And so Warner Brothers gave Netflix a couple days to raise their offer, to match it or to beat it. And Netflix basically on the same day decided, nope, we're backing out. We're pulling out. This is after like 3 months of them being like, we're so happy to welcome Harry Potter to the Netflix family. And so as of recording this video, it is deemed official that Paramount is going to be buying Warner Brothers. And I feel like I need to preface and say that this is confirmed, it's official, but it has not happened yet, if that makes sense. Basically, these kinds of purchases, these kinds of massive corporate mergers and buyouts, they take a long time to get like approved, and with like government regulations, and just like a lot of moving parts, because like $100 billion purchase, which is ridiculous and absurd amount of money. And so something that is like this big is going to take at least until the end of the year to actually happen, and even then, because there's just so many moving parts, it may not even be till like 2028 where we actually see any meaningful difference, and maybe even potentially later. Also, just gotta throw this out there, just in case this fucking ages like milk again, there could be some like Hail Mary down the line. Well, there's a Hail Mary down the line starring Ryan Gosling, but there could be some kind of like something coming in, something down the line that actually is like, oh, actually never mind, we're not selling, and that could happen tomorrow, because the rate shit changes. The rate this thing's happening, it's kind of fucking driving me crazy. It's exhausting as a content creator. Boo-hoo, woe is me, the YouTuber. But where we are now, this is kind of the state of things. Paramount is buying Warner Brothers Discovery. Netflix has backed out of the deal. And that is as of today, February 28th, which is when this video is posted, because I am recording this video the day it's going live. So let's pray for me, please. And there's a lot of things I want to talk about when it comes to this. I've been seeing like a lot of like fan wars about Netflix versus Paramount. And like, oh, this one's better, this would be better. Oh, and I want to say they're both bad. Both of these options. This is like fucking AVP, Alien vs. Predator. Like, what is it? Whoever wins, we lose. This is just like a gross abuse of corporate power, and it's an unspeakable $100 billion. $100 billion. That's an for context, back in 2017, Disney, they bought Fox for $71 billion. So this is this is 50% more than that. And even that was an unspeakable amount of money. So think about $100 billion now. So ideally, this wouldn't be happening at all. This kind of giant corporate merger would not happen whatsoever. David Zaslav, the current CEO of Warner Brothers, he was only put in charge to sell Warner Brothers. That was his whole goal, his entire time as CEO. And all that this is really doing is eliminating, competition. So yeah, Netflix, Paramount, both of them bad, both of them not ideal. But Paramount is worse. Firstly, back to the kind of Netflix's offer and why Warner Brothers deemed it more valuable than Paramount's. Even though technically, like, per share, the dollar was less, it's because Netflix was only buying the movie studios. And so that dollar per share at the time was deemed more valuable. Whereas Paramount is buying everything. Paramount is buying the movie studios, it's buying the news media, it's buying everything that is under the Warner Brothers Discovery umbrella, which is already the biggest umbrella in the fucking world. It's up there with Disney. And it would turn Paramount into not just an umbrella, but into a fucking solar eclipse. Now, why is Paramount worse? What makes one corporation worse than another? And this is where the video starts getting comments about people telling me to leave politics out of it and to stay unbiased and remain impartial, which I'm not going to do. I don't do that. I've never done that. Look at me. Look at any video I've ever fucking done. I'm a Green Arrow fan. You think my Green Arrow videos is neutral politically? Hello. The leadership at Paramount has numerous documented ties to far-right politics and extremely conservative agendas, like deep in the pockets of Trump, and the Saudi Arabian government is paying for this in parts. And we've seen decisions from Paramount that have already leaned in this direction, like with the firing of Melissa Barrera from Scream 7 for doing the horrendous act of speaking out against a fucking genocide. And now, of course, it's a corporation. Corporations are inherently going to be gross and conservative. We've seen it all the fucking time. Corporations are not your friend. They're not your leftist woke buddies. But it is much more disturbing and gross and transparent when it comes to Paramount. And that's going to impact more than just movies, more than just media. But for right now, I kind of want to focus on the movies right now because I think that's where a lot of people have the most questions. And the argument I've seen for Paramount all the time was, and I think I'm saying this right, but the movie theaters. Keeping theaters alive was the mentality a lot when Netflix bought it originally. And I understand that because, like, Netflix, the CEO, Ted Sarandos, I think is his name, he has publicly said often that he believes that movie theaters are obsolete and streaming is the only way that movies and TV should be distributed. I think that that's inherently anti-art. I think that's a horrible mentality. And it's why we saw stuff like Wake Up Dead Man and Frankenstein get such limited, such limited releases. They didn't even go to like AMC theaters or anything like that. And that was a concern that I agreed with. But it kind of turned into so because of movie theaters, now Paramount is the good one. And then that kind of turned it into like a culture war thing where like, I believe in movie theaters became like almost like a dog whistle, which that's weird. Why we gotta drag movie theaters into this? I like movie theaters. I like my AMC A-list. But the CEO of Netflix did say that they were still planning on releasing Warner Brothers movies in theaters, at the very least, like non-exclusively with streaming and stuff. That would still impact the businesses of the movie theaters, but at the very least, artistically, you could still experience these movies as they were meant to be seen on the big screen. He might have just been saying that just to say that. And so that brings us to the DCU. Kind of the reason I want to make this video, because I've seen just a lot of misinformation, claims of people saying that the DCU is dead, that DC Studios is dead, that James Gunn is gonna get fired now. And we still don't really know what the future is gonna be like with this. We still don't really know what's gonna happen. But like I said, at the very least, till the end of the year, nothing will change till the end of the year. I also think that if this goes through, I still don't really think a ton is gonna change, at least not for quite a long time. Like, will James Gunn get fired? I don't think so. Part of the kind of like contract was with James Gunn and Peter Safran was that Gunn and DC Studios was sort of detached from WB entirely. It's kind of its own little bubble now, in the same way that like Marvel Studios is its own thing under Disney. I think the thing that they care about the most is making money, and James Gunn has shown he makes money. And the DCU is making money. If something's working, if something's making money, then it's making money. And that's all that really fucking matters, right? I think maybe like advertising and like marketing, that might change, but like who knows, right? But it is entirely likely that when James Gunn's contract is up, that he could choose not to renew it, or they could choose not to renew it, you know, for political reasons or for ideological reasons or whatnot. And it's also entirely likely that down the line we'll start to see things slowly becoming more conservative and more right-wing propaganda, essentially. That's just kind of a theory, because, you know, you could argue that the people up at the top of the 1%, they care more about making money than they do about like woke culture war stuff. But it's still very likely that like all of these movies are going to become like Zionist, racist propaganda. It's fully within their own possibility, and that's very scary. I don't love the thought of essentially Donald Trump owning Superman. Or we might see fewer movies with people of color or women in the lead, and that's like, would Sinners have been made underneath Paramount? I don't think so. Personally, I think for a good while, I don't think anything's really going to impact DC and the DCU and DC Studios, because when James Gunn sort of built DC Studios, he knew that Warner Brothers was going to be selling. That was the whole like plan. So they built it with the intention of WB being sold and allowing all that bubble of DC to still exist and still be able to thrive and still be able to make good art. And so in terms of like this channel, nothing's gonna fucking change. I'm still gonna talk about DCU stuff. I'm still gonna be excited for DCU stuff. You know, I will still talk about DCU Batman. I will still make that video about DCU Batman once this kind of like doom posting dies down and stuff. And so really, I think that the like the nerd space, if you want to call it, you know, with DC and Lord of the Rings and I think in HBO and all this stuff, I think they'll be fine. Same with Netflix. I wasn't concerned about that stuff creatively. I wasn't concerned about the art. I was concerned about everything else, because there is still a lot of scary stuff that's going to come from this if this goes through. Namely, the impact on news media, because Warner Brothers Discovery owns CNN. And so now you've got Paramount and the Ellisons and Viacom and you know, now apparently the Saudi Arabian government for some reason. And now they would have control over a huge sector of the media, news and journalism. And that's terrifying. That's scary. And that's more scary than, is Batman gonna get a movie or not? Like, the head of Paramount believes in techno-feudalism, which, like, what? And I think a direct thing that we will see with this is the same thing we saw with Disney and Fox, is we'll see a job loss. We will see layoffs. Basically, with these mergers, they want to cut costs and they want to dissolve as much overlapping roles as possible, and it's scary. And there are employees of Warner Brothers who are scared right now. And not to say that Netflix would be much better, because there was still going to be layoffs for sure, but at the very least, like, there's less overlap because Netflix is such a different beast of like almost like more of like a tech company than it is like a traditional movie studio and stuff, you know. But I don't want this to be like a doomer video. I don't want to lean into the kind of like reactionary, like, well guys, we're fucked, oh everything sucks now. I don't like doing that. I want to hopefully leave off with, like, at the risk of being, like, you know, naively optimistic, there is a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel here, because there's so many moving parts and so much is changing so fast. Like, this is going to be the most difficult corporate merger you've ever seen, and people are fighting back on this for sure. Because also, if you know, this doesn't matter really because it's a corporation, but Warner Brothers will be fine. Like, it's honestly really funny if you look at their history. It's honestly comedic how many people have bought Warner Brothers, and subsequently they went bankrupt because they bought Warner Brothers. But Warner Brothers has been fine. Warner Brothers owns IP and intellectual property. That's the same thing. IP is intellectual property. They own these things like Batman and Harry Potter and fucking, you know, Game of Thrones and shit. Those are worth billions of dollars at the very least. If anything, this is a worse deal for Paramount than it is for Warner Brothers, because Paramount is in like an absurd amount of debt, which I don't know how they're able to spend $100 billion to buy a corporation. And then now they'll be taking on Warner Brothers debt, which is also a lot. This is not a great deal for Paramount. And so I've been seeing this kind of conspiracy like floating around that Netflix is intentionally letting Paramount win this deal, because part of the deal is that if Warner Brothers pulls out, then Netflix would get $2 billion, and Warner Brothers is making Paramount pay that $2 billion. So now Netflix just got an easy $2 billion out of nowhere. And then the conspiracy is that Netflix is either going to wait for Paramount to go bankrupt with all this debt and, you know, just historically what has happened with anybody who's bought Warner Brothers, and then they'd come in and buy Warner Brothers or the studios or whatever they want for dirt cheap. Because also part of the deal is that if it gets blocked, then now Paramount would owe Warner Brothers $7 billion. This is a lot of money. This is such an insane, like, I fucking hate talking about this much money. It's disgusting. And there was like some leaked stuff where like Zack Zaslav kind of Zaslav was saying some shit that made people think that. I don't know. I don't want to read into like a conspiracy and be like, oh, actually the corporations are playing the long game, and actually we're gonna live in a woke utopia where they're intentionally destroying the Paramount Corporation. I don't think that. I think the real hope, the real thing that is actionable and what can change here has to do with what I've been saying this whole video, because I've been saying, if it goes through, if it doesn't get blocked, if blocked, oh, the government. Because technically, according to the law, this violates fucking every antitrust and anti-monopoly law in the books. But the counter to that is, obviously we've seen the government doesn't give a shit about the laws. The US government doesn't give a shit about its own laws, clearly. But I have seen quite a few people who are in power be pushing against it. I've seen the Attorney General of California, he's saying he's very against it, and he's opening an investigation into it. And like, there's such an outcry from like the WGA and like unions and plenty of people are pushing back against this. I don't think this is gonna, like, people are really gonna take this lying down. So it is entirely possible it'll get blocked. Who's to say? But also, literally, they're in the pockets of Mr. Orange McGee over here. So like, who's to say? A lot of people saying what's gonna happen with their full chest, and I've decided to stop predicting corporate shit. But hope is nothing without action, as the great Grant Morrison has said. The action that you can do if you are of voting age in America is, in the midterms coming up, if you are against this buyout, if you are concerned with the impact on the future of not just the film industry in Hollywood, but also, the world and media and journalism and everything, or even just DC, if you're worried that Superman's gonna become a fucking Zionist, is to vote in the midterms. Ensure that the people in power are the people who are against this. Make sure that who you're voting for believes in antitrust laws and believes in not monopolies and stuff like that. So, and also to support independent art, to support things that are not directly tied to a company and corporations and stuff like that. But support independent movies, support independent film and independent comics and novels and music and stuff like that, to show that art is not something that is just a corporate commodification. Art is something that is culture, and that we own that. We are artists. Everybody has a right to experience art, and it has nothing to do with corporations. Corporations have nothing to do with it. Corporations are just the people that make money from it, and the artists who make it, they're the real ones who actually who actually count, who actually matter. This is a shitty topic. This is not a fun thing for me to cover. I don't really like covering business stuff. I hate it. I hate business stuff. I intentionally don't look at it most of the time, but this is such a big thing, and I've seen so much misinformation about it. Do your own research. Look things up yourself. I'm look at me. Do I look like I know things? Do I really look that smart? Come on. I'm wearing a Snoopy shirt. The world's not ending yet. But we do have to be vigilant. We do have to be paying attention. We have to take action when we need to take action, and not just sitting around twiddling our thumbs. But yeah, at the end of the day, vote in the midterms, fuck corporations, and support independent art. That's the only thing that matters. That's the only thing that will ever matter forever. But what are your thoughts on this whole Paramount Netflix deal? Do you care? Do you think that anything's gonna really change? If you like this video, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. Special thanks to Darth Nader 32, Kodak Simba, Leonardo Atoni 6693, and Tedrain for joining the spectacular tier of my Patreon and channel members. If you like this kind of sort of like unscripted rambling type thing, this is just basically what I do for Patreon. I do exclusive videos at least once a month, just talking about whatever. This has been Troy Boy 17 coming at you live. Be responsible, and I'll see you around.